Hey guys, how is everyone? I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone had a great trading day. Thank you, NinjaTrader, for having me on again. I'm very, very excited to show you guys some of the updates that we have, some of the reports and some of the data that can help traders put themselves on the side of the data, right? On the side of the probabilities. But my name is Andre. I am the CEO and founder of Edgeful. This is like my baby. My background is in finance and accounting. I used to work at Goldman Sachs. I also used to work at a hedge fund called Weiss Asset Management. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of context of who I am. And I'll give you guys some context on what Edgeful is. So let me just share my screen here. And I hope that you guys can see this. If you guys are in the chat, let me know if you guys can see this. I'll keep my eyes on the chat for any questions. So don't be shy, please. Perfect. So for anyone who doesn't know what Edgeful is, it is a technical analysis tool for day traders. So what does that mean? If you guys have ever asked questions, how often does the initial balance break to one side? How often does a certain weekday make the high of the week? How often does the gap fill? How often does price double break the orb? Whatever you can think of, that's what Edgeful is built for, is to answer those types of questions. Most importantly, we keep everything in Edgeful completely black and white. And what I mean by that is there is no subjectivity. It's not my opinion. This is just historical data, and that's very important. I personally am pretty tired of all the opinions that fly around online. Edgeful is the only tool that there is that will give you matter of fact, very black and white data that you can go back and actually replicate every single day, right? There's no mystery, there's no secrets. This is all just very clean and intuitive data for you to use and apply in your day trading. So I just want to give you guys a very quick rundown of the actual platform itself, starting with the homepage. So this homepage at the top left is a kind of like an onboarding page, to be honest. And on this, you will have 95% of everything that you need to know about Edgeful and how it actually works. So first thing, how to take a trade using Edgeful. So this first video will show you how you can combine 4 different reports to take a fully data-backed trade. This is specifically on NQ futures, and it is something that I call the ultimate bullish setup. So it's combining reports to have a data-backed bias, target, entry, and stop loss. And these are all different reports on Edgeful. I'm not going to cover the reports in here or this setup right now, because you guys can go and watch this video in the platform. Going down, we have a few videos on each of the individual features. So I'm sure you guys have seen right here. If I go to the reports, this is, if you guys know what Edgeful is or have seen it anywhere, this is probably a screenshot of what you have seen on Twitter, on YouTube, on wherever else, probably something along these lines. This is the report page. So that is one of the features that we have. But we have a lot more, specifically when it comes to live data that can help you guys throughout the day, throughout the trading day. And this is really, really important. This is actually one of the things that I'm going to touch on first, is some of the live data features. But you can see right here how to use the what's in play. I'm going to explain that in a second. How to use the screener. I think that this screener is the most underutilized tool to help you understand the overall bias of the day today. Should you be bearish or should you be bullish as a bias? This is how you can determine that using data, right? Not using what you think is going to happen or what's going on in the news or whatever else is going on, right? This is how you can build a data-backed bias every single day. This is the screener. I'm going to show you guys. This is the first thing I want to touch on. Then we have these algos, which are purely based on customizable trading strategies that we have built. So this is the explainer video on there. And then most importantly, for anyone who's futures, obviously, I'm assuming everyone in here trades futures. These sessions are extremely important. The way that we filter the data in Edgeful is very unique. And I think this is why so many people have success with this, with Edgeful. We will filter for specific sessions, right? So you can see these blue boxes on my chart here. All these blue boxes are the New York session. If I go and I double click this, you can see we also have, thank you, Jennifer. We also have the London and Asian sessions. So when you filter for different sessions, you are looking at different price action. You're looking at a different set of candles. So understanding how sessions work is extremely important. So if I'm going to recommend any of these 5 videos as a futures trader, it has to be the sessions, how sessions work. Because if you don't understand that, you're not going to understand anything else. Then over here, we kind of touch on, I'm going to touch on this in a second when it comes to the screener and how specifically, how often and how drastically the data can actually change and what it really takes to keep up with the changing market environments. Then the trading view indicators, we also have NinjaTrader indicators. We need to update this actually, but the trading view indicators are some of the ones that I've showed you here. This is just one. And then finally, we have a Discord. So the Discord is where all the traders can come and speak and have ideas or how they're applying the actual Edgeful data in their trading. But this is the homepage. Guys, play these videos on 2x speed. I don't really care, to be honest, but it's really, really important that if you want to have success with this, you have to watch these videos. It is very, very important. I know that it might be annoying. They're not that long. You can see right here, 11 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes. If you play it on 2x speed, it's not a big deal. You're probably spending this time on your phone on Instagram or TikTok anyway. You might as well make it a little bit useful. Okay. Thank you, Jennifer and Mike. I also love the algos. Okay, so what I want to talk about quickly is this screener. Now, unfortunately, the market is closed right now, but I came prepared. And what I mean by that is I screenshotted what this looks like today and how you can actually use it during your trading. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to have this New York session here. And I'm going to show you what this screener should look like. What this screener does is it gives you some bias every single day. So I'm going to open up these screenshots. I'm going to pull them up quickly. Okay. So let me just clean this up so we can look at it right over here and right over here. So I want to make this bigger. Just give me a second. Okay. So during the market hours, you're going to get this column right here, this bias column. The way that I set up my screener is I'm going to pull this up quickly. The MAG 7, right? I have the MAG 7, the major market movers, plus the major indices. ES, NQ, RTY, YM, SPY, QQQ, right? And then I have the heaviest weighted stocks in the NASDAQ and the S&P. So Broadcom, Costco, and you know the deal, the MAG 7. So what does this do? Why is this important to look at every single day? Because when you see and this is today, and I'm going to show you a chart in a second of what actually ended up happening today. I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar, but I just want to make this connection really, really solid. When you see this bias for all the major market movers, bearish, now I'm scrolling down to the IB, major market movers, bearish, IB by rejection, mostly bearish, right? What are we going to do? Go long? Absolutely not. Now, you can scalp long, but if I show you a chart of what happened today, this is a very no-brainer short day. How could you have known this? The Edgeful screener, right? I'm going to pull it up one more time. This is the actual screener. This is not the screenshot. But what you can see here is, and now the reason I had the screenshots is because this looks different post after hours. But every single day, this is going to tell you what are the major market movers doing based on the data. So, to take a step back for a second, this is something that you should have up on your charts or on your screens rather every single day when you're trading. Because if you are going to be the one who's going to try to pick the bottom over and over and over and over again on a day where all of the data is saying that the major market movers are going bearish, Again, based on the data, not based on my opinion. The major market movers are leaning bearish today. I see a question. Your screenshot was taken at 11 a.m. How is it at 9:45? Still bearish? So great question. These specific reports here are my screenshot. Yeah. Okay. So these specific reports, like the opening candle continuation, I'm going to cover this report because I think is extremely important. Takes the first hour to form. So from 9:30 to 10:30. I'm going to cover this report right now. But the overall point of this is how can I easily identify what the data-backed bias is today? The Edgeful screener is your answer. Now, there's one last thing that I want to mention when it comes to when everything is red. Obviously, your bias should be bearish. That doesn't mean that you're going to you're just going to go short when everything turns red. It means you're going to find a good entry. You're going to use a certain model, an entry model, or whatever else it takes for you to find a good short entry and then capitalize on the larger moves down. The opposite is also true. If everything is green, you want to find a good long entry and capitalize on an uptrending market. Now, these days, right? These days where price just barcodes. These are the worst days ever, right? I don't know anyone that likes trading these days when this happens. When this screener is split red and green, close to 50-50, and it looks a little bit like a Christmas tree, almost universally, and I'm not going to speak for, I don't have any specific data on this, but from my experience, my personal opinion, the days end up being something like this. Why? Because the major market movers are going in opposite directions. That means that there's no continuity, there's no continued move with all the big names going in one direction. So those days, what I recommend is either paper trade, size down, or don't trade at all. The market's not going anywhere tomorrow. You don't need to catch every single move. This makes your trading a lot easier because it allows you to understand where is the market moving based on data, right? So let's talk about some of the reports that are in this screener. I'm going to go down here. Let's use today as a great example. So first one that I want to touch on is the opening candle continuation. That's the first report on my screenshot. So Nico, I'm getting to your question. We're looking at NQ, and I need to look at NQ on Edgeful. So now we're looking at NQ in the last 6 months. So what this report measures is the color of the first hour of the session. So what that means is I'm going to go to my indicators here. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to go to opening candle continuation. And what you can see, excuse me if I keep clearing my throat. I've been talking for like 72 hours straight on calls and streams. So sorry. What you can see here is that from the open at 9:30 to 10:30 is red today. That means that price was lower at 10:30 than it was at 9:30. For every time that this has happened, which is considered a red candle, a red opening candle for the first hour, 74% of the time in the last 6 months, the day has closed red. If that first hour is green, like it was yesterday, right over here, 79% of the time, the day has closed green. So what does that mean for you guys? If the opening candle's red, you do not want to expect a bullish day, right? This is just based on the historical data. This is not my opinion. It does take that first hour to form. You can customize any of these reports, right? Almost all of our reports you can customize. So you can change to 5 minute, 15, 30, whatever you want, right? You can change to 3 hours. So the opening candle becomes 3 hours. You can also update in your indicator. You can change the start and end time so you can see it on your charts over here as well. But this is the first report that you can use to determine your data-backed bias, which is also, like I mentioned, the first report in the screener, right? This is the #1 report in the screener, the first one. Next, because this is a great edge here, right? This is 72, or I need to go back to NQ. This is 73, so almost 74%, and then 79%. This is great, right? This is a fantastic bias, but we can layer in some more. So now let's go to the initial balance. The initial balance is the high and the low of the first hour, not just the actual color of the first hour. So I'm gonna go to my indicators, initial balance. And what you're gonna notice every single day plotted for me, I'll hide the market sessions for a second. You can see the high and the low of the first hour automatically plotted for me every single day. And we do have these indicators for NinjaTrader as well, NinjaTrader desktop. So you can request those right over here. On the right, it is included in your Edgeful plan. Make sure to get these NinjaTrader indicators right over here. You just have to provide your machine ID. There's all the instructions in this pop-up. So the initial balance is the high and the low of the first hour. What you can see is that in the last 6 months, 72% of the time, price has only broken out of one side of the initial bounce. So what does that mean? Right here, you can see in the morning, price broke out to the low. You do not want to expect price to reverse and touch the high. This is a double break. This has only happened 24% of the time in the last 6 months. You also, for sure, want to expect that price actually break one side, because what you can see here is that only 4% of the time it has not, only 5 out of 128 days has it not broken out of this IB, which means that it will do this for the rest of the day, right? Does not touch the high or the low. So to summarize, you want to expect one side to break, but just not both sides. Do you guys have any questions on the opening candle or the IB so far? If you don't, if you do, just start typing. It's fine. I have my chat up over here, so it's fine. But what's so beautiful about these two reports is that when you combine them, well, first of all, they form at the same time from 9:30 to 10:30. So right off the bat, you can just wait that first hour. Let's say you trade that first hour, you trade the gap fill, you trade something else, you trade the open, right? You trade the 15-minute orb. And then you have another setup coming after that first hour. Yes, Billy, I believe this is being recorded. This should be recorded. We will confirm that, but I believe this will be recorded. So in this case, we wait that first hour. You see the opening candle's red. Let me just pretend, let's go back for a second. Now it's 10:30, right? Let's pretend that we don't know what actually happened here. It's 10:30. The opening candle's red. So what are we expecting right off the bat? Bearish price action. Doesn't mean that price is going to flush immediately, but bearish overall price action because I'm expecting a red session now. Then you continue down. Price starts to break the IB low. So now we have two very bearish reports that are telling me I don't want to expect price to do this, right? Because this would go against the very strong data that we have. So these two reports are the top two on my screener. Not that there's any order of priority, but what you can see here is that all the major indices today, the opening candle is red, all of them closed red. The IB standard, oh, maybe we should make this red because it was a breakdown to the downside, but all of them broke the IB low. This is a breakdown, which is a break to the IB low, and all of the major indices closed below the IB low. So this is actually what happened today. You can see this obviously on NQ here. Then there's actually this report, which is a very interesting report, another one that can help you. Now, it wouldn't have really helped you too much today, but let's actually see. Okay, perfect setup here. So on this day, let's use a different example. Let's use a bullish example here. Opening candle is green, price breaks the IB high. What are we looking for? We want to expect a bullish day, right? Now, what we see here is the IB by rejection. Now I'm going to tell you guys what this report is. I actually don't really talk about this too much. I probably should talk about it a little bit more. I'm going to go to the IB report. So for those of you who don't know, I went to my bookmarks. I went to the IB report. You can also see the IB report in your actual report dropdown, number 4 over here. And then you're going to go to the sub report number 7. You're going to go to by rejection. Now, what this report measures is, I want to be really specific here, is the order of which the high and the low of the IB formed. So in this case, this is yesterday. You can see, looking from left to right, which side formed first, the high or the low. The low formed first here, the high formed second. So again, to recap, the low of the initial bounce formed first. There is an explainer video down here. If you guys I don't want to go into too much detail for the sake of time, but there is an explainer video here that will give you, and this applies to any report, a full breakdown of what the report is measuring, how you can use it with live chart examples, and they're at most 10 minutes. Play it on 2x speed. Make sure to watch these videos anytime you come across a new report. What tie range are you referring to when the closing at 10:30? So can you just rephrase that question, please, while I continue this explanation? Thank you, Gene. So here we see that the low is formed first. The important piece is that now this side over here is for every time the high formed first. This side over here is for every time the low formed first. So what do we see? For every time in the last 6 months, the first, let me go to NQ. For every time in the last 6 months that NQ, the initial bounce low formed first, which is right here, the first break outside of the IB is to the high side 82% of the time. So 82% of the time, if the IB low is formed first, the first break is going to be to the IB high, like we can see right here. Yes, it is the first 60 minutes. Everything that I've covered. So the question is, I'm asking what time frame you use. Is it 60 minutes? I am using the first hour of the initial bounce. There is a very important caveat here. You cannot use the hourly time frame on this. You have to use 30 minutes or less, because the New York session starts at 9:30 and hourly candles start at 9 and 10. So you have to make sure you use 30-minute candles or less, but I'm using a 1-hour IB. So I want to make that really clear. The TradingView indicators and the NinjaTrader indicators, yes, that is exactly right, John. And so let's look at this day. This to me is like almost like A+, because we have a green opening candle. The low of the IB formed first. We want to expect, before the price breaks out of the IB, the break to the high. So this is another confluence to get long here. And then once it breaks the high, this is another confluence to expect continuation, right? Because we do not want to expect this to happen, like I just mentioned. Does that make sense? I hope so. If you guys have questions, I have my chat up, so don't worry about it. Ask whenever. Perfect. So 3 reports we covered. Opening candle continuation. Let me clean this up for a second. Opening candle continuation. What is it measuring? The color of the first hour, 9:30 to 10:30, is the 10:30 higher or lower. That determines higher or lower than the 9:30 open. That determines the opening candle color. It will also always be up top here. So you don't have to actually think about it. It's also in the indicators. Then we covered the initial bounce. This is the high and the low of that first hour. That's right here. We want to expect one side to break, because in the last 6 months, 72% of the time, price has only broken out of one side. Then the IB by rejection, which is telling you that if the low forms first, again, we're going to our sub-reports here. The high has broken out of the IV first 82% of the time. So are you going to be the one that's going to expect this to happen when there's a green opening candle and the low formed first? You're not going to see me doing it. I'm not going to tell you what to do, obviously. Could happen, but it's not very likely. So it could I mean, that's another important piece. 16% of the time in the last 6 months, it did happen. But I just want to mention, I'm not going to be taking that. You guys should not listen to me. You guys should only listen to the objective data that you could find in a million places all over here, right? So I covered 3 very important reports that you can use every day that are in your screener. And what I think is actually really important, even if you just trade futures, that you make sure to turn on the all setting here. So you can put in the Mag 7 and the major market movers, because these are the ones that are heaviest weighted in the NASDAQ and the S&P. So if you want an idea of what's going on, you trade ES, you trade NQ, MES, MNQ, doesn't matter. You want to be looking at this every day. This is going to help you understand, should I be bullish? Should I be bearish? Or should I take a step back? Honestly, I feel like most people, yes, you can customize actually, you can customize everything to be for the London session, including the indicators. So over here, you can change the IB timeframes to be from 2 or 3 a.m. Eastern time to 11 a.m. or whatever times you want to change your sessions. And then if you go to any report, this applies to anyone, whether you trade Asia or London or New York or the daily session, you just go to the session right here, number 6. And again, this is why I said earlier that the sessions are extremely important. You can change your session to be anything over here. Great question. What, if any, other sources do you use to inform your trading in addition to your reports? So I actually don't, I mean, people kind of find this hard to believe. I actually don't really overcomplicate it too much. Like, I do a bunch of live streams and you'll hear what I talk about. It's the same thing. Good trading, sorry. Good trading is typically very boring. It's not fun like what you see in the movies. Like if you watch the show Billions, like it's not like that. Like it's not this like crazy thing. It's like you need to execute every day the same exact thing, as long as it's working, as long as the percentages are in your favor. Execute the same thing. It's very boring. It's very simple. It's very repetitive. It's very monotonous, right? That is, I mean, what I'm showing you now is literally like what I do. I also use the algos every single day, the Edgeful algos. I use them every single day. And we're releasing European index. Yes, we do have the DAX as well. We have any futures ticker, any stock ticker, any Forex, any crypto. We have it all right here. If we don't have it, we can also, if you send us a message here, we can get it added in so you can look at it. One thing that's very important is that this data updates every day. So I want to show you guys something very, very drastic. We don't have the ability to use the algos on NinjaTrader just yet. We are working on it. I'm a huge fan of NinjaTrader, so obviously we want to make sure that this happens ASAP. But I want to show you guys why it's important to keep up with the data. And this is like just a very good example that I just know off the top of my head. And I want to go to the ORB report Q1 of 2024 on ES. What this shows, and I'll go to the ORB indicator quickly. What this shows here, this is the most textbook example of what I'm going to show you right now. The ORB Q1 of 2024 would double break 81% of the time. So out of 63 days in Q1, 51 of them would double break. What does that mean? Exactly what happened today. Price breaks out to one side, breaks out to the other side. Literally, you just wait for one side at the time. You would have just waited for one side to break, find a good short entry, target the other side. If it's the downside, you find a good long entry, target the other side. 80% of the time, this was working, right? Now, that's fantastic. This was like the most popular report on Edgeful, by the way, at the time. Then you go to Q4 of the same year. The percentage is cut practically in half, from 80% to 50%. This is more of a coin toss. There's really not much there, right? In terms of, this is 50% double break, 50% single break. If you were to add these two up, it's practically 50-50. So the data changes very drastically. And honestly, this is the only tool that you can use to keep up with the changes in the market environment. There is no other tool that you guys can use that I'm aware of, or that anyone has ever made me aware of, that you can see in real time how the reports or the strategies that you're trading change as the days and the weeks and the months go on. So understanding how the market environment shifts and adapting to that market environment is extremely, extremely important as a trader, because what you were doing in Q1 of 2024, even if you were crushing it, may not work anymore. And if you're going to get emotionally attached and married to a strategy that is not working anymore, that is a recipe for disaster. You guys need to know that you hop, like, if the orb was 80% at the time, go for it, right? No brainer. But if it drops from 80% to 50% and you see, okay, it's at 80%, then it goes to 75, then 70, then 65, then 60. You're like, wait a minute. What's going on here? I'm not going to keep trading this. It's not working as well, right? That's where you need to know that I need to take a step back from this, or I need to have other confluences or whatever else. This is what happened to me personally with the gap fill report. If I go to the gap fill report on ES, and I'm going to go to the last 6 months, this report the percentages used to be north of 70%, probably closer to like 75 something percent. They have dropped to 60%, which, like, to me personally, anything below 60%, I'm not too big of a fan of, honestly. Like, I would rather use something else. But this report is like the first ever strategy that I used when I got into trading. It like breaks my heart to not use it. Every day I look at it, but I'm not going to trade it. The only time I will trade the gap fill is if I go to the buy weekday and I go and look for a weekday that actually fills. So I'm going to go to NQ quickly. Overall, this is not in my playbook anymore because it's not working well in this market environment. So I'm going to go to Mondays, right? If there's a gap down on Monday, that works well, right? You can see that very obviously when you go to the buy weekday sub-report. This is on NQ in the New York session. Go to Tuesday. The gaps up actually work better. Wednesday, gaps down work better. Thursday, neither of them, right? Thursday gaps down actually tend not to fill with a very strong percentage here. And then you go to Fridays, not much. So this strategy, like, if I didn't have this tool, I would never know that my favorite strategy is not working anymore before it's too late. This is one of the most important pieces I think that every trader needs to understand, is that don't get married to a specific strategy just because you had made money with it before. If it's not working in this market environment, then you should not be trading it anymore. And you need to find either other confluences to layer on top of it, or you need to look for something else. And I know that there is a bad connotation around strategy hopping. And I want to show you guys something else. This is like one of the last things I'm going to show you guys for the sake of time. But yeah. So Karen asked, what support/memberships do you provide for newer traders, especially ones who can't commit full time? So we do have calls that you can do that are part of the Edgeful subscription, where you get a help session, you also get mentorship calls, and you get algo calls. So those are 3 different calls. The help sessions are for like understanding the platform, trying to get some sort of understanding of like how everything works. The mentorship calls are like, hey, this is my trading style. I trade futures. I can only trade because I have work. I'm commuting to work between this time and this time. I can only trade at this time of the day. And then you and I, like me personally, will get on the phone and we will actually go through and see like what are the potential options for you, right? What reports would work well? What time frame should you be looking at? What sessions work well, right? So, and then we also have the algo calls, which are me and you guys will go through and talk about, based on your personality, based on your trading style, how would you refine your algos? Because we don't tell you like this is some holy grail. We allow you to customize them based on your personality. And this is such an amazing segue into what I'm going to show you guys here. So right over here, I have a chart. And what this chart shows is, this is just like basic math. This is like the statistics of a win rate strategy. But what you can see here is the probability of taking a certain amount of consecutive losing trades based on a win rate, right? So most traders will happily say, I want to trade a 50% win rate strategy with a 2-to-1 risk to reward. Okay. If you are willing to do that, there is an 80% chance that you will take 6 losers in a row. There is a 50% chance that you take 7 losers in a row with a 50% win rate strategy. There is still a 31% chance you take 8 losers in a row. And this relates to strategy hopping. This is something that I had mentioned just a second ago, but I don't think that most traders actually understand that when they sign up for a strategy that has a 50% win rate, I don't think that they're actually mentally accepting the fact that they can take 7 losing trades in a row and everything is still going to plan. It's super important, guys, that you understand that the win rate is one of the biggest levers for your psychology. So where I recommend you guys kind of like live, at least when you're starting out, is down here. 65 to 70% win rate. Now, what that means is your risk to reward is obviously going to be a lot smaller, maybe 1-to-1 or less. And it's okay sometimes if it's less than 1-to-1. Why? Because you get the consistency, you get the wins under your belt, your equity curve is smooth and it slowly increases. You don't have these big swings. It's very consistent, right? When you have a higher win rate strategy in the 70% range, this is where you will be able to emotionally deal with taking these losers. Because there's a 55% chance you take 4 losers in a row, but there's only a 21% chance you take 5 in a row. I'll happily take that, right? And this is another piece of where the Edgeful algos come in, where we have an ORB algo that lives around this area, and you can fully automate it. So you decide what your risk to reward is, what your max loss is, and all the other different inputs, right? We're not telling you what to do. You decide, and then you can automate that. You can connect your broker, you can automate it. And this is really where, and specific to what Karen is saying, you can't commit full time, right? That's totally okay. Because we have the algos that will help you, that if you're in a meeting or you're driving or you're a doctor, you're with a patient or whatever else, and a trade executes, you're not going to miss your high probability setup based on what the data is showing you, right? So the win rate is extremely important. I don't think that many people know or even understand how this can impact your trading or even your psychology, because I am not the type of trader that's going to take a 40% win rate strategy. It just doesn't suit my personality. I don't care to leave money on the table. I don't need to catch these giant home run trades. I want consistency. I want base hits. I want singles and I want doubles. I'm never going for a grand slam. I don't have these monster days. It's not my personality. I would rather have a very consistent and reliable system that is backed fully by data, and I want to be around here. There is no right answer, by the way. It's super important. There is no right answer about, you can trade a 30% win rate strategy. Obviously, your risk to reward needs to be very big, but if that works for you and you have a system that works and you're not going to break it, more power to you, right? There's no right way to do it. I'm just telling you what works for me. Now, there's one last thing I'm going to talk about risk to reward. If you take a trade and whatever, I'm just going to do this quickly, right? You take a trade with a 3-to-1 right here, 3-to-1 risk to reward. I just made this up, obviously. And you say, I'm going to trade a 3-to-1 risk to reward strategy. If you take profits before your target, your 3R target, consistently, you are not trading a 3-to-1 risk to reward system. If you take a trade and you set your profit targets and your win rate is lower and you need a 3-to-1 risk to reward to make your system profitable and you don't hold your winners, you are not trading a profitable system because you need to make sure that you actually hold on to your winners to your target. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, the automated trading. There was a question here. Can you talk about the upcoming automated trading and the brokers you'll use? We're actually using Tradeovate to start. The reason we're using Tradeovate and not NinjaTrader specifically is because we have a lot of Mac users, and I know a lot of people that use Tradeovate use Mac. So I believe, and I'm not sure, that you can log in with your Tradeovate credentials into NinjaTrader, but I know for sure that we are using Tradeovate. That is the first one that we're starting with. And the way that it works is like Edgeful will just pass the signals back and forth from TradingView to your broker, which is going to be Tradeovate in this case. It will be fully automated. And most importantly, we are not telling you what to do. We are just passing the message along. If you're happy with the back test on your algo, we will pass that message to your broker when it tells you to buy or sell or take profit or stop out. So what if you scale out of some and hold a runner on the 3-to-1 risk to reward? It's a great question, but overall, you need to make sure that your strategy allows for it, because what people tend to do is they always let their whole position go to their stop loss, and they always take profits along the way, right? Nobody trims their losers before their stop loss. They always say, I'm going to hold. I hope it reverses. I obviously can't answer that question because I don't know the system you're trading, but I would imagine the answer to be no. You need to hold to your actual target, but it depends on the system. I can't answer that. I'm not sure, honestly. The cost. So Edgeful is $49 a month. And then the algos are, so you need to have Edgeful in order to have the algos. The algos are $250 a month for a total of $299 a month. But the algos pay for themselves. If that sounds like a lot to you guys, trust me, it pays for itself. Also, it's the cost of a funded challenge, of an eval, or whatever it is you're doing. It pays for itself. I've been using them for a very long time. My settings are not going to be the same as your settings, but I'm sure you can get them to somewhere where you'll be very happy. When will Trader be up and running? So we are currently in a beta tester. We are currently beta testing automation. We're trying to break things to make sure that there are no issues. Obviously, it's never going to be 100% perfect, but we are working on making it as best as we can in terms of the execution speed and everything else. So we are looking to have it out this coming Monday, hopefully, to get the automation fully to anyone that already has the algo. So, or you can obviously upgrade to the algos too. It's just not going to be an additional charge. So we have 3 algos currently, one for the gap fill, one for the IB, one for the orb. We're releasing another one for the engulfing candle strategy. And we're also going to have the full automation where you plug in your broker, and that's going to be all part of that $250 or the total $299 a month. The IB strat, like Baron uses, yes, Baron's the man. Right now, Elizabeth, we don't have the algos on NinjaTrader just yet, but we are working on that. We just need to make sure the automation works well first, and then we're going to start the transition to NinjaTrader. So Nico, you cannot use the algos on NT8 just yet. We don't have any plans to integrate with Top Step X at the moment. Project X is a little bit more complicated to connect with. It's actually more complicated on the user side, that you have to there's just so many more steps that you have to do to connect an algo to Project X, which is why we haven't done that. Yes, John, there's no additional charge for anyone who's in the algo plan. We're going to include the automation into the algo plan, and also any other algos that we release will also be included in the algo plan as well. So we're obviously releasing more and more every month. We're going to have a new one that's going to come out either next week or the week after, which is the engulfing candles. Also going to be in that 65 to 70% win rate with a little bit of tweaking. So that's coming out soon as well. So you'll have two algos that are close to 70% and another two algos that are closer to 50% win rate. Will you post your settings somewhere? Seems like you would be the ideal person to recommend them. Yeah, Brian, good question. So I actually don't post my personal settings because I know that people will just blindly copy them. And my trading style might not be the same as your trading style. However, we go to the algos page. This is what the inside of the algos page looks like. We do have a private Discord for algo members only that they talk about the settings that they use and the back test of the resulted back test from those settings. So you are going to have a great foundation to start with, but you are not going to hear my personal settings. Yeah, I just don't want you, I don't want people to just copy me blindly. I want you guys to have the, to be able to kind of like do it for your personality. But perfect. What else? Any other questions? I know we are up on time. I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. Elizabeth, I don't have a timeline yet for algos on NinjaTrader. However, I do have some incredibly exciting news. This is the last thing that I will say. Q4 2025, Edgeful AI is coming. Edgeful AI, you will be able to ask any questions about any report that we have. You'll be able to create your own reports. You'll be able to combine reports. So like I mentioned here, imagine if you can just go and say, tell me every time there is a red opening candle and the IB breaks to the low, how often has price closed below the IB low? Or how often has price continued 1% further down? Another example. This is just an easier example to say. Tell me every time that Tesla has been up over 5% in any day, what has happened the next day? What has happened with the IB the next day? Did it close red the next day? Another example is, here are the reports that I like to trade. You can say, reference my bookmarks, right? Reference my bookmarks. Here's a screenshot of the current market environment or whatever. Here's a screenshot of my chart. Can you create a daily trading plan for me, a plan for me to trade today? It will go through. We have obviously all the live data. We have all the historical data. We have all the reports. We have everything else. You can say, I want to trade NQ today. I want you to tell me some stats or a plan around the IB, the opening candle continuation, and whatever else, right? Now, very important. It's not going to tell you where to enter and exit and take profit. It's going to say, if the IB is red, or if the opening candle is red today and the IB breaks to the downside, you have a fantastic way to have a short bias targeting X area, which is the IB buy levels, which is another report that I didn't talk about today. So you will be able to have pretty much quant that you can speak to in English that's going to help you in your trading every single day. One other thing relating to Edgeful AI is that for NinjaTrader or for TradingView, you'll be able to automatically write your own indicators. So let's say you like to use SMAs and VWAP and whatever else you like to use. You want to create your own custom indicator that has the IB and the opening candle continuation in one indicator because you don't want to clutter your screens. You'd ask Edgeful AI, hey, can you combine the opening candle continuation indicator and the initial bounce so I can have it all in one? And I would like to have these customizations where I can change the IB time frame. There it is. So these are some of the things that we're working on, right? You're going to practically be able to talk to our entire database in English as if it's your quant, your own personal financial analyst, your own personal quant that you can say, hey, this is what I like to do. Or can you tell me how this report works? Or this is my trading style. What reports work well for me? So Q4 of this year, 2025, we're going to have Edgeful AI. I think it's going to absolutely change the game for traders because it's going to be fully data backed. It's going to be specifically trained on day trading. It's not going to be some generic AI like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or any of those. It's going to be specifically trained to day trading. So we are going to use those models, obviously, but there is a ton of training that happens in the background to train it on day trading. So Robert, we do have an annual subscription. You can upgrade your plan in your settings over here. So somewhere over here, I'm not going to go into right now because I don't know what's going to pop up, like my email, my address. But Robert, we do have an annual plan. It is actually the only discount that we do. The only discount that we will ever do is the upgrade to the annual plan is 20% off. We do not do Black Friday sales. We don't do Christmas sales. We don't do any sales at all under any circumstance, ever. We have never done it. We will never do it. It is absolutely underpriced, and we want to give access to data to all the traders so we can change the overall stats that 90% of traders fail. We are looking to change that. We want Edgeful to be the place that traders come to actually make money. Yes, thank you, Brian. It is going to be a game changer. You took the words right out of my mouth. Great information, Andre. Thank you. Very helpful. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. These will be integrated in TradingView. Yes, they will. They will, Samuel. They will be integrated in TradingView. Specifically the algos and the indicators will be in TradingView. Everything else, the AI will obviously live inside of Edgeful.com. Is there any report to see how far we go beyond the IBs? Michael, I'm not going to go into that report, but we do have a report. It's called the IB by levels. Right over here, make sure to watch that video, IB by levels. So it's a sub-report of the initial balance. I'm not going to get into it right now, but check that report out right over here. I need to refresh. Yeah, check that out. It's called the IB by levels. I appreciate you guys. Yes. So right over here, you can see the IB by levels report. You'll be able to see all the details you need on the continuation once the IB breaks. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.